Hi, welcome everyone to Coleman Report Live, April 30th edition. Welcome back, Lance Sexton, and of course, Katie Roach. Lance, we have a ton of news today. How you doing? How you feeling?
Continue to get better every day. Still a little fatigued, but everything else is back.
That's great to hear. Bob is on the road officially. He finally took off, and we'll be having some guest speakers next week, and I think we can manage that throughout the week, Katie. Anyways, let's get to the first poll question. How many of your I think I screwed that up. I was trying to ask how many of your PPP loans over $2 million have been forgiven, and I think we had a technical glitch with the answer. Lance, maybe you can give us some insight onto what you're going through with the big ones.
Well, the larger loans are still moving quite slowly. Of course, they all have SBA's review, and I fully expect now that we're about done with PPP originations that we're going to see the forgiveness process really elevate and take center stage. So if you haven't gotten very many forgiven larger PPP loans, I think that's right around the corner.
Well, let's try this again. This is the second poll question. How about I do this? All right. At what level does SBA require a business valuation? All of them need a business valuation, 250, 350, 1 million, or it's not required.
I'm going to let them answer, and then I'll talk a little bit about it, Joe.
Great.
And there's some correct answers. Let's go over this. On a business acquisition loan, where you've got someone buying a new borrower buying a business, an existing business, business valuation is required on all business acquisition loans.
Right.
Now it depends, determining whether it's a third-party business valuation or an internal business valuation comes into play. If there's, once you take the purchase price of the business and deduct the real estate assets and the fixed assets, if the goodwill values over 250, you're going to have to get a third-party business valuation. If it's under 250, you can do an internal business valuation.
Wonderful. Katie, let's go into your reporting about PPP fraud. It's always been a constant fear, but what's really happening? Give us some stats, and great article that you wrote today.
Yeah, so this took a little while to research yesterday. Bob wanted to get up to date on it and find out what's going on. As a lot of you probably remember, back in, I believe it was in August, the SBA OIG issued a memo that looked at about a decent portion of the loans that had been done so far. And they said $189 billion was not in conformance with the CARES Act. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that those were all fraudulent loans. They did say some of those could be unintentionally fraudulent. Some of them could have been intentional. And some of them might have just been small errors that, of course, got updated when people were applying for their second loan. So I wouldn't say all of that is fraudulent, but it is a lot of money to be looking at that was not in conformity.
I was going to say, that's an eye-popping number. That's not 189 million, it's 189 billion.
Yes.
out of the 760 billion that we've spent on PPP or whatever. Okay.
Absolutely. And that was the concern there, because that's 36% of the amount that had been lent at the time.
Wow.
And if even a portion of that was actually fraudulent loans, that would be very concerning. However, as of last month, the Department of Justice had only been able to confirm a link with fraud for $446.8 million, which is less than 0.1% of the loans. It's quite a small number. However, they're still going to have to be reviewing that money that they found before that was not in conformity And they're still going to probably take years before we have a decent idea of how much fraud there really is in the program. It is a good sign that it's fairly low currently. And last time we reported on this was about 2 months ago, and we didn't see too much of a huge spike there. There is more Department of Justice cases currently being prosecuted. We're now at 119 active cases, prosecuting 209 individuals. I believe we were just barely over, or actually we were barely under 100 last time we reported. So there is a bit of an increase, but not too bad. And the good thing to note here too is the $446.8 million, not all of that was actually dispersed as well. Only a little over half of that was actually dispersed. Lenders and mostly lenders actually were able to catch this before it all went out the door. So that's always a good thing to hear. So that is an active issue that the SBA is addressing. The SBA OIG is on top of it, looking at those cases. They've got 91 cases that they are currently investigating. And of course, the Department of Justice is in on it and involved as well as several other government entities.
Excellent report. That was just amazing. Lance, if you think something's fishy, what do you have your lenders do? Who do they contact? And
yeah, I think most participant lenders would take a few steps to try to avoid doing a PPP loan that created a fraudulent situation. But what happened with PPP, there were a lot of non-SBA lenders that were able to get involved in PPP. Without naming some, there are some lenders, a typical participant lending institution has a relationship with that customer, a background with that customer, knows the customer, and your fraudulent cases are significantly less in that circumstance. But some of the new lenders, using online platforms, probably never met or talked to the customer.
Right.
And in those circumstances, it certainly would be easier for a person trying to commit fraud in the PPP program to do so. But I think most of your active SBA lenders who had a 750 agreement in place prior to PPP probably did I suspect they did a great job of processing loans, and the fraud cases were minimal with those lenders. But some of the new people that got to come
0.06%. I mean, it's pretty amazing actually how little that is. So.
However, Joe, they're going to be investigating, as Katie's indicated in her article, they're going to be investigating PPP fraud cases for years.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, we have a big day on Monday, and we keep on saying when the floodgates open, it'll be the demand is going to be through the roof. But tell us what's going on with the new portal and the restaurant revitalization fund.
Yeah, so today at 9 a.m. Eastern, the SBA opened the Restaurant Revitalization Fund application portal to allow interested parties to pre-register, start getting their documents together. On top of that, the SBA has posted on their website the application form, so interested party could go ahead and fill out that form and get ready, get all their tax documents together that they're going to need to present. And then when that opens on Monday at noon Eastern, they can go ahead and apply if they are part of that priority group. I believe the first priority group is going to be women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And that will go through 21 days, and then it'll open up to other applicants as well. So it is going to go pretty fast here, but it is opening, and it's giving a chance for people who maybe need a little bit of time to put this stuff together. It gives them the time to start putting their stuff together so that they can apply when it is open for them.
Lance, is the lending community getting phone calls? I mean, I imagine it's a grant program. However, borrowers probably want some assistance from the lenders. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it, Joe, but the thing that has stunned me, I get calls from all over the country about SBA lending and PPP lending issues. I have not gotten a single phone call, Joe, about the restaurant revitalization fund, and I think part of it is because it was introduced, talked about, and 4 months later, we have a program. Now, I am seeing some participant lending institutions starting to float some information out to encourage their borrowers. And actually, Joe, I think we are, as an SBA lending community, going to have to reach out to those customers, those existing customers that we have that are in the restaurant business, and make sure they're aware of this program and make sure they're ready to get their application in. Now, we can't actually put it in for them, but we can at least give them some information to be ready for the program. So I guess I'm just stunned, Joe. Haven't had a single call yet.
Yeah, and I think you will. I think once it starts, you might get some calls. But we're also doing, we're doing our webinar next month on restaurants, and we'll be talking about the data as it comes in and the process, so it's going to be interesting to see how fast that goes. John Winnick thinks it's 3 to 4 times the demand of what the money has been allocated. So let's see what happens next week. So Katie, they're talking about supply chains in the House Small Business Committee. I think the biggest challenges are hirings and supply chains quickly behind that. But give us a quick update what the Small Business Committee did.
Yeah, so yesterday the Small Business Committee held a hearing on supply chains, and what they do is they regularly pick a topic like this and look at how it's working, and they don't necessarily make any changes to any programs, but they want to know what's going on across the country and how small businesses are doing. In this particular hearing, they were saying that nearly 80% of U.S. businesses experienced some kind of disruption in their supply chain during COVID-19, and small businesses were especially vulnerable to these type of disruptions. Sometimes you have small businesses as being actually part of the supply chain themselves. They're distributing things, and sometimes they're also the ones relying on those supply chains. So either way, they are deeply affected by this, and it is concerning for them. However, small businesses do tend to adapt to the changing market conditions more quickly than larger counterparts, and that was addressed during yesterday's hearing. We also heard witnesses testify on obstacles that they're facing, such as manufacturing fees, lack of access to capital, technological modernization, some of those things that would help supply chains and make things a little easier. The Small Business Committee hasn't changed anything, but they do want to make sure that those things are supported in 7A and 504 lending in the future.
I spoke to a friend of mine, and she said that what used to take days now they're estimating 3 to 4 weeks. And Lance, do you still see those delays in April of 2021, versus May of 2020?
Every small business across the country is experiencing great delays in getting inventory in. An example, my brother's in the furniture business, and you could pick a bedroom suit, and prior to COVID, he would order the bedroom suit, and about 2 or 3 weeks it'd be at the store ready for delivery. Today, and I experienced this because I ordered a new bedroom suit. It took 4.5 months to get that in. Another thing that I read, Joe, in regards to supply chain that I think people might not be aware of, there is a nationwide shortage of chicken wings.
Yeah, I did read that.
And I know that's how it impacts small business. They were talking to some of these new like Wingstop and wing-related restaurants who were having to close a day or two a week because they couldn't get enough chicken wings in to meet demand. So it's all different categories of products. There's definitely a delay in getting it, and sometimes you can't get it at all because it's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it's an issue, but I think the resiliency of adaptation of change is pretty remarkable. I think, Katie, we've seen some extremely innovative ways of dealing with all these delays.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what we're going to do about the chicken wings, Joe.
Yeah. Let's go to some questions. That made me laugh. Can your PPP loan be fully forgiven if part of the loan was used to pay taxes?
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Paying taxes was not an acceptable use of PPP loan proceeds. So the portion that was not used for an appropriate disbursement category will not be forgiven.
Any recommendation on when to apply for forgiveness? Should we go ahead and apply right after the covered period, or is there a benefit to waiting a little bit longer?
You know, we talked about this at the end of the year, and we were curious how it was going to be handled from a tax perspective. And, you know, I advise clients wait until the first year to apply for forgiveness from those first rounds. Now, my advice would be as soon as your covered period's over, as soon as you have spent the money, go ahead and get your forgiveness application together and get it submitted. You know, we had this mad rush to get PPP loans done. We're going to have that same mad rush for forgiveness coming in the very near future.
If a bank made an error filling out the 3508S and applied for only the partial forgiveness, what should they do? Should they contact SBA? What do you recommend?
My recommendation will be to contact your local district office to get some help with correcting this. I've not seen, you know, how to correct an incorrect submission on the forgiveness application. So I would contact your local district office. They may not be able to answer the question, but at the very least, they can get you in contact with somebody who can.
Can Schedule C filers have their PPP loan increased if it hasn't been reported on the 1502 yet?
You can increase it if an increase is appropriate. You're going to do that increase in E-Tran. It's, you know, the answer to the question is yes, just make sure you follow the appropriate techniques.
We have a ton of product. We just finished our compensation report. If you would like more information, you can give me a call anytime today. And we have a ton of upcoming webinars, document equity injection, collateral, unforgiven servicing, and restaurant at the end of the month. And Lance, we look forward to next month's webinars. Ton of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts. So
That's a good list. Equity injection is always critical, Joe. So we've got that coming up. Collateral requirements, making sure you properly collateralize your SBA loans, critical. Servicing PPP loans, that's going to be a big topic, and we're still waiting for some final guidance from SBA on how you request, you know, if you have a PPP loan that's unforgiven and then it defaults, how do you request guarantee repayment? What are you going to have to submit? Restaurant financing, you know, it's important to know the statistics and trends, and if we ever get the 504 refi information, we're going to be excited to get that webinar out as well.
Say, you know, we owe a webinar to some stranded folks out there, and we're waiting on the guidance, and once we get it, we'll put that together. But
absolutely,
we're sitting tight like the rest of us, like everyone else. So, Lance, Katie, good job. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys back on Monday for a Coleman Report Live, and this concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.